Hey, welcome back to another great episode of Geeks from the Multiverse. Of course, we are doing an episode of Evolve. We are revisiting bullying. So this is our bullying 2.0. We are going to be talking about the impact of technology that it has on bullying and some other topics like gatekeeping, cancel culture, and the bystander effect. So I'm going to stop talking and let's just get right into it.
Evolve, adapt, overcome. Power up your mind and level up your soul. It just takes one small step to be better.
Welcome to Geeks from the Multiverse. I am your host, Matt. With me is John.
Wow, not even Captain Lestage. I even mentioned your name, but you didn't want to do that last time.
Hey, I figured we were doing an Evolve episode. We were bringing things down and being serious.
All right,
and,
so yes, this is Matt, this is John. Okay, I'm sorry. Yes, so yes, of course, Matt and John, as always, as we always like to do things. But yes, no, like he's saying, bullying, man, I mean, we talked about it long time ago now. It feels like forever ago at this point. I mean, shit. I don't even know, man. It's crazy still to me that, we've been doing this now for so long and now we're doing this.
This is our first, we did bullying as our first ever Evolve episode.
No, and it's
it was before we even did Evolve.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. We didn't even, we called it, we called it our serious episodes.
Yeah, we did our serious episode.
we didn't even have a name for it yet, and it's crazy to look at how it's evolved. Right? Got it. Yeah, it's evolved. Yeah, it's crazy. Bullying, to be serious, it's still pretty sad that, we're still dealing with it, but now it's even worse because it's on a whole new level. Like it's not even the old style. Like we're talking, it's extreme now. Like it can get even worse than even what we've been used to.
It's gotten easier.
Extremely easier. I mean, you could be anybody doing this, and you could literally change everything.
Not only has it gotten easier, but it's gotten anonymous. Like you could literally sit on your couch at home
playing a freaking video game at this point.
Your underwear, playing a video game with your computer open and just type something into an AI
and you want to talk
and have it do anything that you want.
Well, and you want to talk about ruining somebody's day in literally 5 seconds? I mean, it's all it takes. It doesn't even take probably longer than that, depending on probably the upload of the video or whatever. But it doesn't take crazy.
Yeah, it doesn't take very much.
I mean, remember the old ways of, hey, I don't like your, black shirt because of whatever.
I don't like your face.
I don't like your face, bro. And you're like, I don't like yours either.
Usually that would be followed up by a punch.
Yeah, right in the face or something, or like right in your arm, and you're like, oh.
I mean, if you were like me and you went to West High School, normally that would be like,
oh, you mean
I don't fucking like you, and then you'd just be thrown through a glass window.
Well, and and so the physical pain's there too. But no, I hate saying it. I mean, yes, I know we're trying to be serious, but it's true though. And now it's just like you could. It don't matter what you're doing. You could just do anything, and you don't even need the physical anymore. Now you're just doing it on an emotional, verbal, kind of scale. I mean, granted, the humiliation alone, it's mind-boggling how it's changed so much over, if you're talking, we'll just say from the year 2000, right? Because, that's kind of when technology was, I'm not saying the 90s and the 80s and so forth didn't have it, but 2000 kind of really started pushing more of technology and started, phones and everything else. But we're talking 25 years, okay? In that time frame, so much technology has changed, and especially now how AI is literally the leading drive for a lot of different things, and how it's just.
I mean, maybe before that, you could maybe bully through. I don't know, maybe pagers
or AIM,
you could page maybe angry codes I don't like this guy, so I'm gonna dial his pager and be like 666. I'm just gonna page. I'm gonna page him.
Calling him up.
Yeah.
Well, even think about this. You remember how and I know Matt kind of remembers this. So I know we joked around a long time ago, but before. So when you were, yes, okay, kids, ready? Here's a little history lesson on video games. Okay, when you actually had to play with, again, we've talked about local play or like screenplay and stuff, right? So you had to be in the same room. So like when you were like, you're cheating, man. You know, you're getting in, you're fighting it out, you're duking it out because
I'm taking my controller and going home.
Right. Or in this case, because before when you had online, right, there was no such thing as online because they didn't have that. They didn't have that technology. But like once the online showed up, oh my God, people were. You want to talk about the chat rooms in Call of Duty and other.
I mean, I didn't have to get confused on which side of the screen I was.
Yeah, and you're like actually play with. Well, right. And then the worst part was like when you heard the chat rooms, right, of like Call of Duty and other things, and then you had like a 12-year-old kid yelling at you, calling you like a little bitch and like other things, and you're sitting there like, "Where's your mom, bro? Like, what's going on here?"
I used to remember, and this is kind of off topic, off the bullying thing, but I used to remember the days of playing like Madden.
Oh God, yeah.
And then like telling my brothers like, stop looking at the plays I'm calling. Like,
yeah.
Because in the old school Madden, like if they knew the play that you were calling, they could
counteract it. Yeah.
If they picked the right play, they would automatically cancel your play like in the game, like to a T. So it was like, stop picking the right, like stop picking my play, so you had to almost like pick it like in secret, like, you had
to kind of like go off to the side and be like, all right, yeah, let's okay, that we're good. Yep. Yeah. Well, no, you're right, man. I mean, and like I said, I know we went off topic there, but like, it's just crazy how you start to look at, bullying and how much it's still affected after, we're talking basically a lifetime of basically human existence, but like, it's just gotten to the point where it's so easy, it's crazy, and it's literally
as technology gets better. It just,
pretty soon it's going to be like virtual. You're just not even going to need to see them in person. You can just go up to them virtually and just like beat the crap out of them, and they're like, and they feel the pain or whatever.
So before we kind of get into the impact of like real technology, like we'll get through some of these other, because I mentioned gatekeeping, and we. Kind of defining, I guess, what gatekeeping in geek culture is. And it's really the idea of fans controlling who is considered a true fan. So it's like you're kind of controlling the gate, sort of say, and you're like, you don't know, Marvel if you're not a true fan. Having that mentality.
Well, here's the thing, man. It's basically saying you're cool, you're not cool. I don't care whether you like it or not. I'm the one controlling who is and who isn't like going to be a part of this group. And so, like, I know actually real quick because it does pertain to this too. Matt decided to mention real quick before we started this. He said that on some levels that we were kind of doing the same.
I think on some levels, but I think on a lot of levels, a lot of podcasts are like this.
Well, to a degree, but I think the problem is with us is we even said like, we know a lot about Marvel and DC. Yes, you're right. Because those are, I will say it, those are really your two bigger like comic book, related universes and stuff like that. Or just in general with characters, right? Now, I'm not saying you don't know anything about like, I can't even remember what comics is it Image for Spawn? Or is
yes,
it like,
I believe it's Image. Yeah.
So like, like the few other ones that are not, I'm not saying they're not big, but they're not as, let's say, prominent, right? They're not as like, as you can see all the time, right? Now, I'm not saying that you don't know them, but right. No, we know a lot about these things because yes, I've done my research. He's done his, so on and so forth, and I never once say, to people like, yes, I can say, look, I love Marvel. I like, I do like DC as well, but I will never tell somebody that you cannot, figure out an idea of, like you can't. Hold on. Yep. Okay. The biggest problem is this, right? Is like, you can't tell me that when you start to look at other people, like you can't not want to be like a fan of that, particular thing, right? So like, I guess what I'm really trying to say is like, if you want to be one thing, go for it, right? Like I will never tell somebody you cannot be a fan of Marvel or you can't be a fan of DC. You can't be any of the right? Because you could just start watching this today and automatically become a fan. I might have been a fan longer, sure, but I will never disagree or I'll never say, well, you don't know, you don't know the days of this or whatever, and that you're not really a true fan or whatever. I'll never say that because there's people older than me that have been longer too.
No, but there are, there's a lot of people out there that would be like, you're not a true Marvel fan if you've never read the comic books, and it's like, yeah, well, I've seen some of the comic books, yes.
Same here, but I've never
read I've never read any of the Iron Man or any of the Hulk. And so if you're saying I'm not a true fan, fine,
and here's the other problem.
Whatever. But
if they really want to go further, then they're like, oh, you've never actually read the original comics, like from the 60s or the 40s or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there like, if you tried to find that stuff today, I mean, granted, you'd be a millionaire because some of that stuff is like worth, I mean, I'm not saying it's worth it's a lot, but I mean, it's like hundreds of thousands of dollars depending on some of the stuff that you're looking at. But hell, I wish I could go back in time and buy something that was like, especially in like the 40s or 50s, that were like a quarter or less than that, and then just bring it back in real time and then be like, hey, I found a copy, and like sell it or something.
Yeah, it's just
crazy.
It's just the mentality, and it pushes, it pushes new fans away. Like when you're looking at the MCU and you're looking at DC, and you're looking at some of these like things that are not even like MCU or DC, like anything that's within this geek culture, they're trying to build this like, fandom with this, new content, and you have these kind of elitist having their sense of superiority, and I was here first. And
right.
It's like, I get it. Like you're trying to protect like your little subculture from your outsiders, but like
it almost sounds like they're protecting their legacy. And it's like, really, like you can't tell me that, cause like you can say that, yes, DC technically came first, even though they weren't known as DC, they were known as Action Comics at the time. So, you know what I mean? Like, and like Marvel, really, I'm pretty sure Marvel actually wasn't Marvel. It was something else too. But my point is that like chicken or the egg, right? Like who cares?
But it pushes those those potential new fans away because they're like, well, if I can't be a new fan, then I'll just find something else, and it's like, if you're not going to accept those, new fans and those outsiders, then what's the purpose of having that geekdom if you're not going to accept people?
Well, so I'm going to also say this too, right? And I think we kind of mentioned this too in our last episode a little bit, but like, when you, and I'm going to say this kind of goes into play here, but like when you have an agenda, right? When you have a certain piece of information that you're trying to like push down people's throats as well. I get that you're trying to, maybe promote an idea of like maybe saying like, hey, let's try it this way instead of that way. Now, I'm not saying that all ideas are good or bad or whatever, but like if people are, like saying, hey, like I'm a fan and I've been a fan for so long and I'm doing this and that. I'm not saying you can't have new ideas and new thought processes, whatever. What I am saying is that this is why, Matt, we need to make a shirt. When you have a goddamn blueprint of what you've done already, and that works, and you're not recreating something that doesn't need to be, especially because it's worked so long, then what's the point of trying to shove down some new ideas that people really don't want because you're just trying to push it because, certain things. Now, like I said, I understand that you're trying to make sure that people understand certain points of view, and that's fine. But it doesn't need to be shoved down people's throats when they don't need to hear it all the time either, right? You need to find a balance between that. And so, like, when you're gatekeeping, right, and you're saying, well, we just want these kinds of people. Well, okay, no offense. And this is just me in general. Whether you're, because I'll say it, like, whatever your gender is, whatever your nationality, your race, your origin, your sexuality, orientation, or sexuality. Well, let's try it again. Sexual orientation and, age or whatever. It doesn't matter, right? Because at the end of the day, when you're a fan of something, or if you're a member of a group or whatever, in the back of your mind, you shouldn't worry about whatever that is. But I know that those kinds of people will want certain individuals or want certain things because That's what they're trying to do. That's what they're trying to manipulate or trying to, make it easier for them to do.
Spreading that misinformation, and then there, you have the nostalgia bias, like they're resisting changes in the franchise that they grew up with because this is how it always was. Like you can't change what was there.
Now, hold on.
And this is
we'll say that you and I have done this. Yes,
we have done this to a point, but like when you're looking at a franchise that has been a certain way,
correct.
But you're looking at like what has happened, and I'm looking at the MCU in a certain way because one, I mean, yes, like maybe we are resisting change within Marvel right now, but I also have to look at what's in the future of Marvel because there isn't really a character right now in the MCU that I can see that is going to be driving the MCU forward.
Right. When you had a group of superheroes leading that charge, and especially individuals that were helping to build the franchise,
right?
That's different, right? And then, later on, we thought that, let's say, Doctor Strange or Spider-Man or something like that would have taken the responsibility of that and kind of move things forward, and especially even a villain for that matter. And unfortunately, with certain circumstances and certain events, it is what it is, and you can't change that. But what you do is you find a way to bounce back from that, and you try to make it that you can make it like forward because of certain things. But they haven't been doing that. They haven't really done that.
But this is what gatekeeping does: is that they want they really want that they're really resistant to change, and what really happens is like it stifles the creativity. Like rejecting the fresh takes and the adaptations, they make the fandoms feel like they're very exclusive, and they should be really inclusive, but they make these fandoms really exclusive. They don't really accept new fans into them because they just want themselves into it, and that's really like it. I'll say it like it's really like kind of like this toxic echo chamber where only their opinions are the ones that are valid.
Well, and kind of going back to like some of the things we've talked about before is like when you're also when you're also saying, hey, the old fans don't matter, right? And you're trying to get that new wave of people in too. I get that you're trying to get people to get the I guess the new ideas or the new characters or the concepts or whatever, right? And they're trying to get people to come in too. But then when you start, again, that's what it was, my bad. Start pushing another, and that's why I keep mentioning the word agenda, because that's kind of what it is in the way that they're doing it. They're having this thought process of, we don't want certain things because, we've done it this way for so long. Now we're trying to, make it this way because that is what it is. Now I'm only flipping the script here because, I know we were just saying like scare off new fans and doing all that, but it can be in reverse in that sense too, where they're trying to, get rid of the old, in with the new, and basically everyone's idea from the past is not something that they want to bring in the future. And so like whether you have a new idea, whether you don't, and you're flipping the script here, it can.
Yes, I think it certainly can work both ways. I think the gatekeeping can work both ways where, if you're looking at it from, the elitism from each side, yes, you can be looking at it as older fans resisting change, or you have these newer fans coming in and now they're like, no, you guys were the old guard. We are the new guard, and what you guys have done is now over, and now we have a new agenda. And whatever you guys did doesn't work anymore.
Right. And that's where I'm saying like,
and so it's like whatever opinions, whatever, things that they wanted, they still want to see or still want to do. It doesn't matter because it's like I said, it's like that toxic echo chamber where only their certain opinions and their points are the only ones that are now valid.
Well, so I'm only going to bring up Star Wars because this is always a great reference to the kind of the next little tidbit here, but like, driving away the like talented creators, away, like the actors, the writers, the producers, whatever. Right. So like when you look at Star Wars as a prime example, when you had your two favorite people, Matt, who were in charge of a certain TV show, The Acolyte,
Well,
and
they deserve to be driven away.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, right? So like when you're looking at those two individuals, right, and they had their agenda because they're newer, right? Well, one of them was newer in the regards of, creative content and stuff like that. But then you have another guy, right, who's supposed to be the Kevin Feige of, Star Wars in a sense, and, is basically supposed to be driving. Like, again, he's part of the old, but now trying to drive in the new to help, kind of tie in things and make things easier. But, he's kind of pushed off to the side about certain things, even though he is technically creative director of like a lot of this stuff. But then he's pushed off to the side for a TV show like that.
I mean, he's just as much to blame because he's the one that signs off on it.
True,
so.
But again, he probably, and I'm going to mention this, like he probably has, harassment. Right. He's probably dealing with like other things as well, which I'm not saying is the right thing that he should be doing, but like he's probably got other issues on top of what he's dealing with as well. So I'm not saying it's easier or not easier, but I mean, ultimately, if you look back at good old Bob Iger, it just falls back really on him too.
Yeah. I mean, you can really see gatekeeping happen within the Star Wars fandom. I mean, Star Wars fandom is one of those gatekeeping fandoms that you either are on one side or you're on the other. And for a lot of fans, if you're on one side, like there were fans that were fans of Acolyte and they faced a lot of, hate and harassment. I didn't like the show, but I'm not one I'm going to go online and be like, hey, you really suck and you need to lose your job.
No, right.
But in my head, Leslie Headland, she needed to lose her job. Like when you have a show that looks like, a 60s Star Trek episode and you spent $240 million on a show, which was also the amount of money that was spent on Rings of Power, and you compare the two shows, that alone, you should deserve to lose your job.
Well, and the only reason why I'm going to say this is, when you, again, have a blueprint or have those things in place because
you had a blueprint and you had everything. But yeah, I mean, you can really see that gatekeeping with the Star Wars
I know
fandom because there are fans that hold that like, no, this is the way Star Wars has always been. You cannot change it. This is the way it always been. And, you have new creators coming in and going, hey, we want to do this. And they're like, no. You're a loser. You suck. You're not a good. And then, they face that harassment. And then all of a sudden, like, nope, you're out now. Sorry. Fans don't like you.
Well, and that's where I'm saying, like, it's hard to, and the reason why we're mentioning like these, different points of view in a sense, and not just for really geek culture in this sense, but like this is just everyday life too. I mean, it doesn't matter whether, you could be on one side of a group or another side of a group and have the same issues. But, when you're looking at how, like, and I'm only bringing up Star Wars again, but like when you're looking at how, when we even say the blueprint, right? I'm not saying you can't change certain ideas to make it maybe flow a little bit better or different character designs or whatever. But it's hard because when you're starting to look at everything as a whole, like, or at least a show or a movie or a series or whatever, yes, not everybody's like first idea is going to work on the piece of paper, right? Like, so you might have to start drafting or doing different ideas or whatever. When Lucas probably made Star Wars again, when we looked it up, I mean, his original ideas were, it wasn't set in stone. It was just like he had it planned down and then whatever. And then, yes, he sold it to Disney. And then Disney said, hey, you know what? We're going to scrap your idea and do something else. But,
thanks for selling it to us. And then as soon as you walked out the door, like, hey, we're going to fuck this shit up.
Yeah, right. You
know what I mean?
No, but what I'm saying is, though, is that, yes, even though we talked about a blueprint, I'm just saying, like, yes, we would have seen a different side of, like, what it should have looked like versus now. But, it's hard to really know what is the right answer. I would say at the very end when it comes to like even gatekeeping, because nobody. I mean, me personally, nobody should be really having all the power. It should be divided in.
No, but I mean, even if you look at it as a smaller, I mean, gatekeeping happened not in a bigger sense. Like you're looking at studios. It can happen like even with smaller podcasts. Like you have these like networks of podcasts that like they have their little niche and their little echo chambers where they have their opinions. Like they're on. You can just go on Twitter. You can find them there, or X, whatever it's called. You can find them there. They're just spewing their toxic opinions all over the place. And if you try to speak against them, there's 5 other people in their little toxic environment that will flat out attack you for no purpose. Like they will flat out tell you should die.
Right. And it's true, because at the end of the day, it's like, what gives you the right to be telling somebody you should die because you're a piece of shit?
Like they will like people have actually done this on Twitter, like speaking out against some of these like Star Wars, and the Star Wars fandom is one of these like really toxic ones where, they've speaking out against some of these people, and some of these people in this fandom have actually sent them like, I will go to your house and I will stab you in your face for even opening your mouth.
So I don't know why you just brought up a random ass memory for me, and I remember that. Now I'm only saying this real quick, okay? But I'm even talking like an old school example of this, okay? Like a high school example. Ready? So I remember this was feels like a long time ago, but so I remember this. I think it was like the prom ideas group or whatever. They were like, hey, like send some ideas out. I think I said it on. It was either in person or on Facebook or something like that. And I said, hey, I had the idea of this. Now I understand high school, they're fucking, excuse my language, but they're goddamn brutal. Okay. It just depends on who you're looking at. But I remember saying to some people, hey, why don't we, instead of sitting with our friends, right? Like, because I get it. Sometimes it's whatever, why don't we get to know different people? I was like, like socialize to see who other people are, maybe different interests, whatever. And I said this to people. And then I'm pretty sure one asshole, I'm going to call him that because I'm a grown man. I said, you want to come find me here? No, I'm joking. No, I don't need to tell you my address. But no, I don't remember who it was. But he basically said, that's a fucking stupid idea. And I remember him saying that in front of a lot of people. They're laughing, whatever. And I'm sitting there like, okay, now I feel embarrassed. And so the weirdest thing, and this is where I'm saying this now, is, I remember this one girl who I was still surprised. I mean, I know she's probably changed. It's been many years now, but we're just going to call her Julie. I'm not going to say the real name, but so Julie, right? So she, decided to stand up for me. Now, granted, she was like one of the mean girls, who I thought it was the mean girls, like of like the high school. That's what I thought, right? I was surprised because she stood up for me and said, no, actually, it's his idea, and you shouldn't be making fun of for it, and she was defending me in a sense, and so like it was surprising to me because what I thought was supposed to be, the mean girls of the school, right? She was defending me. And again, I wasn't like really popular. I wasn't really like whatever, but and I was genuinely surprised and shocked. And, I was like, thank you. I appreciate you kind of standing up for me, even though you didn't have to. I mean, it was kind of like whatever, but that's where I would say, people, right? Especially I would say, like I said, high school is it's another beast and a half. That's like one part of your life you could just tend to forget easily. But like, going back to the kind of like the bigger thing is like, it's an example of that, where, you can have one idea and somebody out of the clear blue doesn't have a clue who the hell you are, could just say, fuck you, you're a piece of shit. You don't even deserve to have that thought. Get out of my face. Don't even talk to anybody else about this. I mean, and again, who gives you that right to tell you? Again, there's a reason why there's a freedom of speech, right? Because you have the right.
And that's the whole gatekeeping. And I don't think it was until recently, within maybe the past 5 years, maybe a little bit longer, that we started talking really about cancel culture.
Yeah, or really it's the cancel woke culture. Like it's like it's either changeable, because that's kind of what it is.
Like it just became like it became okay. I think it almost became like the cool thing to like attack people that we don't agree with, or like I find you really annoying, you're canceled now.
Well, and that was the thing where, and that's the part I don't understand. So I love how people will just say, the random stupid shit, like they could say, oh, well, you're annoying. That doesn't make any sense. You're a piece of shit. You're going to get canceled because no one's going to watch you anymore, do all this other stuff. And I'm sitting there like, again, it goes back to the other point. Who gives you the fucking right to tell me I'm canceled or whatever? Because again, the whole freedom of speech thing, I mean, that's kind of a thing, which it seems like nowadays don't even have anymore. But, it's crazy to me when, you make a minor mistake, or a joke or, so many years ago. Like,
it was originally meant to like just hold people accountable for like whatever harmful things that they were doing. So like if you were just being a piece of shit, like it'd be like, hey,
like a degenerate, right?
You're being canceled for just being a piece of shit, and
right, the whole accountability thing. But then it just progressed. It progressed into something a hell of a lot more, where literally people who I feel like
if I don't like you, you're just gonna get canceled. Like
I think the other thing too is that when you're sitting there and you're trying to let's say give a positive message to something, right? And then all of a sudden, somebody that does not like you all of a sudden can be like, okay, you're canceled. Even though the person that is trying to be genuine in the conversation, trying to maybe promote like good intentions and things like that, they can just be like, fuck you, you're done, get out of my face, you're canceled, this and that. And I'm sitting there like, you don't even know the full story.
And it's not even things that like you might do right now. Like
it could be like
they could find something from years ago and said, hey, 10 years ago, you posted a joke on your Facebook page that was really offensive, and now your Facebook page has been shut down. You can't go on social media anymore. Like you're done. You're canceled.
And it's really,
I was like, I posted that fucking 10 years ago. Like I was a different person then.
Well, and not only that, and that's the thing.
I mean, I'm not, but I'm the same person. And I'm
I know.
I'm just as rude now as I was then.
I agree. I do agree. Now, the thing I was gonna say is you're right. I mean, it's sad to me that when you start to look at, technology and especially the internet, right? Because where, you post something, it's there, everyone can see it, they can find ways to look at it, whatever. When you have people that are literally have no lives and have the intentions of wanting to ruin someone else's life because they're going to go back in time on something that you literally might have said, and you have changed your mindset because you've grown as a person,
right?
And you've done all these things to try to be that better person, and they're going to blame you on a mistake. I said, trust me, I know. Do you realize, I was like, does anyone realize that nobody in life is perfect? Like, do we not understand that humans are just meant to be, make mistakes and have those things in mind because that's just who we are. We do these things, and we're based off, if we're judged off of literally our past, I mean, no one's like literally in the history of mankind, there's no one that's absolutely perfect.
Yeah. And this is like, it's not just like someone that's like, like you have a podcast, like they're going to just post, like, don't listen to this pod. Like you don't want to listen. Like this could be like, if you were in like high school or something and you were trying out for the band, like people would go to like the band teacher and be like, you don't want this kid. Like he's really toxic. He's, he's a criminal, or he's a really bad kid. And then you go to try out, you go to the band leader or whatever, like the teacher. And the teacher's like, I'm sorry, I just can't have you in this class. And so like you wanting to really be in band and you really wanting to develop yourself as a musician really now is like, well, what the hell do I do now?
Well, and this is where I'm also going to say this too. And it kind of plays into something a little personal, but like, it sucks when, when you're never given an opportunity to grow, right? Like when you have a new job, right? Or especially, let's say at a job interview, right? You're trying to grow as a person, right? So like, now this is the age old question. I know a little bit here, but like, how do you get experience, right? Like, how do you get experience? The only way you get experience is by getting an opportunity to do something. So when you're getting disadvantaged from that, because
I've tried to answer that question so freaking long.
Oh, I know.
Like,
I know the feeling. I'm just saying it, but it's true, because if you're not given an opportunity to grow or to do all that, and especially now people who are assholes and just want to say, nope, you shouldn't do that because of blah, 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 blah.
I mean, it becomes
making it harder.
It becomes public shaming and bullying, because it's not just like them saying like, oh, you're canceled, see you later. No, like they're going to go and make it public. Like they're going to make sure that whatever you're doing or we're doing is going to be shut down. So like if you were trying to like join band or get lessons, like they're going to make sure like that people know like, hey, this person's a real piece of shit. Like they're going to go to some of these like, you know, if you were trying to go for lessons, they might go around to some of these like, you know, Guitar Center or some of these like local, you know, music teachers,
right,
and be like, hey, they stole their instrument. Like you don't want to teach this person. So like you're gonna go around the city and be like, hey, I need lessons. Can you teach me? And they're gonna go, no, sorry, we can't. Like we can't teach you. And so like now, like you're really like,
well, you're limited.
You're really limited, and it's like once you're canceled, and it's really one of those like weird words of saying like, how the hell do I get canceled? It's really like them limiting like your opportunities because they're making it so public,
right?
Where they're basically just saying like how much like of what you've done, and they're going and limiting the opportunities that you have because all of these people are going to say like, I'm sorry, like we can't associate ourselves with you.
Well, so actually it had a little funny thought, but I know you remember the show, I'm going through change. And I see he's smiling. Now, if you don't know what that is, it's Big Mouth. But no, so the reason why I mention it is because there's a particular monster on that show, the shame monster. Right now, he's kind of British when he's talking. But like, I always think of that because now I'm like, I'm thinking of it like that because, right, so he's like shaming people, like shame, you know, he's doing that. But, you know, like you got the shame and you got the shunning, right? So like basically one and the same. But like, you know, you're doing that to this person, you're shaming them for doing something that, yes, you know what, it's a mistake. It could be a very hard mistake because think about it, right? I'm going to be honest. Like, you know, I think most people, I would say probably in high school, they could probably partake in, you know, substances or whatever.
Yeah, and this is not something like, you know, it's not like something like, oh, I didn't do anything, so I'm getting canned. No, it could be like, maybe like on social media, like you said, you know, you posted maybe something that could be taken as like like racist or sexist or like you definitely did something to cause it.
Right. I mean, so like what I was about to say was this, right? So like you could literally make one mistake. You could be like,
even if it's minor.
Well, again, you could be you could literally be in high school. Like this is the reason why I keep mentioning this, right? So you could, let's say, I don't know, let's say smoke weed one time, right? Or whatever. And then, you know, you try to do, let's say you join the military or let's say you do other things, right? And if somebody finds out about that because you did that one thing, that one time. God.
You smoked the pot?
You know, the pots of the smokes and the stuffs and things. And you're like, yes, that thing. Yes. No, I'm just saying, like, you know, if you did that even that one time, like, and it's like they automatically will say, nope, you're not.
We can't do that. We can't associate ourselves with you, and you get canceled. And then once you get to that point, it's like, it's really difficult to like get yourself back to the point where you were.
Well, but unfortunately, it's mostly you have to restart your life, or you have to basically move away from the people that know you for that mistake, and you have to literally redo your whole life. You got to restart all over again. Now, granted, sometimes that's great, but sometimes that's really shitty when you have to redo literally all the years of work.
I think the biggest problem is like with cancel culture, and if it happens to somebody, like it gives no room for change or growth
or evolve
like over that time. So there's no like learning from like what had happened or accepting responsibility for it.
Right.
It's
or
like
evolving.
You had this, you know, you had this problem. Now you just got to sleep in your homeless bed and sleep on the street. You know, that's your life now.
Well, and
you know,
well, no, it's true.
It's like all or nothing. Like you're canceled now, and that's just your life now.
Well, and here's the other thing, right? I would say a very important aspect too is the bystander effect. The fact that you're just sitting there allowing this, and we do that. I mean, everybody does.
Everybody does.
There's nobody guilty of this.
Everybody does this.
I cannot tell you how many times people just sit there and like, well, do I want to take the ridicule as well, or do I just sit there and are like, do I help them? Do I not help them? Do I, and they have this like back and forth. It's like,
I don't want to be part of the,
the sucky crew or the, whatever. Like nobody wants, I mean, trust me, it's never easy to say, hey, you know what? I really don't want to be a part of this because of this, but at the same time, it's like, if you were in that situation, wouldn't you want somebody or someone like I explained in that example that I had earlier, like, wouldn't you want somebody to be like, you know what? I'm going to stand up. I'm going to take that initiative and do that. I mean, now again, especially somebody who, like, it's really tough when you feel like you're like the lowest person on the totem pole, right?
Yeah.
Versus that person who has power, the ones who have words to say, and that's where it drives me insane. Where, when you have, especially people in power, who will literally do the bystander effect, and they just sit there and they just let it happen.
Yeah, I mean, I could see like maybe people that were younger, like they may not know what bullying is, or they may also fear becoming a victim of the bully, either not like in the moment or in the future. But like I think one of the biggest things of the bystander effect is a lot of people just think like that's really none of my business. I'm gonna move on.
Right, and that is a big one. That you're absolutely right because.
Or, they think like, if I get in the middle of this, it's just going to be worse.
Right. And I feel that when you're that person that's sitting there contemplating the fact that this is going on and so forth, this is where I keep saying, if you have capability, because I'm not saying that everybody has the power, or has, words that they can say or do or actions they could take or whatever. Right. But if you're that person that knows that they have a certain way about them and that they can help in that situation, and you're just going to sit there and let it happen, you're no better than the bully themselves. Like, because, and I'm saying it because the reality is yes, I mean, hopefully you put the damn bully in its place, and you basically say, listen.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of factors. I mean, for one, I mean, just putting it out there, you may not even like the victim.
True. But and this is where morality comes into play, right?
True, but I mean, if you're like, well, that person really does deserve what they're getting,
right? Well, that's why I said about morality, whether it's good or bad. But
on the other side, you may actually like, I mean, yeah, you may not like the victim, but maybe it's not that you don't like the victim, but maybe you're like, I actually kind of approve I actually like the bully, like I actually.
Well, what if he was your best friend?
And that's what I'm saying. Like, this guy's actually like my best friend. So like, I'm not just going to step in and like.
Now, granted, you do have more power because you are best friends, because now you know him on a personal level.
Right. But I think almost in that sense, like if I were, I would almost feel like if I were to step in and be like, hey, like knock it out. Like that would almost come back on me. So not saying like I wouldn't do that, but like it would depend on the friendship and the relation. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But like you may fear your own like social status might be compromised. And it really depends on how, like, if you're part of the in crowd, like this is part of like the thing. If the bully is one of your friends, like it could be like looked at as maybe like you're tattling or like, if you're in that in crowd, like you're the not cool one now.
Well, you're the narc, or you're the, whatever.
You're sticking up for you're going to stick up for the.
You're the underdog now,
like the nerd or nerd. So that's kind of like what what could be looked at. But yeah, the bystander effect, I think the biggest one here is, well, that's really none of my business. So like, I'm just going to keep moving on. Like, it's none of my business. Like, I'm not a fighter. Like, if I just get in the middle of this, like I'm just going to end up getting my ass kicked too. Like, well, we don't really need two people getting their ass kicked. Like this guy can get his ass kicked on his own. Like I can just move right on. And maybe I would call the police or, something, but like,
sure. Maybe the police can help. Maybe they can't. I don't know. And I agree with you. It's difficult because when you're looking at it, depending on what the situation is, right? Because there's could be a whole slew of things. But like when you're looking at it, let's just say at a very minimal level, right? That, like, let's say there's like three of us, right? So like I'm talking to you and then I got some guy bullying me or whatever. And you're just sitting there watching this, right? And you're not doing anything about it. You're just kind of like letting it happen. Now, granted, afterwards, I could probably say, what the fuck, man? Like, you didn't want to help me out here. You didn't want, you know what I mean? Or yeah, now this could be totally different where I could say, okay, now you're on, let's say live streaming and there's millions of people watching you. While let's say there's like a few others in a group or whatever, and they're talking to you. Let's say a video conference call or whatever, right? It doesn't matter, right? And then you say something, the bully or whatever is saying something to you, and then your friend over here is just watching you.
Well, these are just hypothetical.
I know it's all hypothetical, but my point is that whether it's on a big stage of people versus a literally like a triangle.
If we're saying like I'm on a Zoom call with millions of people and they're watching me and they're seeing a bully behind me beating the shit out of people, I would hope that one of them would be doing something.
No, but again, they could just be watching. They could just be sitting there. That's my point. So
then they would be sick individuals.
I'm just saying, but I'm just saying in general that is where our society.
It really depends on. It really depends on the situation. If the bully is 100% going to town on somebody, I am not a fighter, and I am not going to go in there and just get my ass kicked.
No, but I will tell you this right now. And see, this is where I think you and I differ, right? I'm not saying I'm trying to get my ass kicked.
I would 100% get my phone out and I would dial 911.
No, I understand that. This is just me. Okay. Now I'm going to tell you, yes, my size can help in certain situations. I'm not saying I would use it all the time. No, but if I saw somebody getting the ass beat the fuck out of them and everything else, I would sit there and, I'd probably talk to the guy, whatever, or girl, or whatever, right? And now, granted, it could go one or two ways. It's either going to go one way or the other. But I wouldn't. For me personally, I'd probably defend them, and the reason why is because yes, if the consequences that's what was going to happen, like if I was getting my ass kicked too, then I guess so be it. But the thing is for me is that, granted, it was a smaller effect in this case, but I know how it feels like to be ridiculed in front of a lot of people and then, randomly have somebody to do that, kind of defend you in that sense. I would want them to realize that, yes, you can do it and it wouldn't matter. Now, like I said, I know some people might think, oh, well, that's dumb. It's not dumb because the reality is when you look at bullying, we've talked about how bullying, or at least the bully, right? They're already insecure as themselves, right? So like if you brought it back to them, now, granted, it's not the best idea, but if you gave them a taste of their own medicine in some ways, I guarantee you they'll stop really fucking quick because depending on what it is.
I don't think violence on violence.
I'm not saying violence. I was saying if you verbally, like if you did the same thing that they were doing to you and said, "Hey, now do you understand why this is the way it is?" Whether they believe it or not. I get it depends.
Well, you're trying to bully a bully, and that's not going to work.
Well, I never said it was the greatest thing, but sometimes they do need to understand what.
I'm just saying for me.
That's why I said you versus me.
For me, I am not going to try to out bully a bully, but if I see someone, like beating the shit out of somebody, like my first instinct would be like, I am just going to pull my phone out and call 911 and be like, hey, somebody is beating the crap out of somebody, you need to send a police officer here now. Like, and that would kind of be my extent of it because one, yes, I am not going to try to out-bully a bully. I am not going to, Negan a bully, and
I'm not going to say bring out Lucille
and grab Lucille and be like, look at the lady nuts on you. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I wouldn't do it like that. I'm just saying. I'm just, what I do wouldn't understand what you're saying. No, I wouldn't.
But like, you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't try to out-bully the bully because as soon as I start talking and try to bully the bully, like, it's going to turn on me. And, what the person is doing is already, illegal. And I don't want to match violence with violence. So
I never said to use violence. That's never the word.
No,
never came out of my mouth.
I'm also not saying like, matching the bullying with the bully. I'm just saying like, I want to make sure that I'm reporting the crime that the bully is doing. And
look, and I'm not saying what I said is right versus what you're saying is wrong and so forth. I'm just saying that it also, I'm going to say it kind of depends on the circumstance, because if, you do all that, you do that, and then,
But I mean, it's
what if you're in
also,
the same situation multiple times.
We're talking about bullying, but it's also like, you see an accident, right? Like, maybe you're walking down the street and there's a car accident. And you're walking on one side, there's two people walking on the other. Maybe there's somebody that's a little bit further down walking their dog, but you all just stand there.
Nope, you're right.
None of you pull out your phone. Maybe the person with the dog pulls out their phone, but it's because they're doing video.
Correct. No, you're right.
Like,
you're absolutely right.
And this is what the bystander is, because most of them just want to watch.
Yep.
Most of them think it's none of their business. Most of them think, well, if I just get in there and help them, it's just going to make it worse. Like, it's just a fender bender. Like, I'm sure they're fine. But none of them are calling 911.
No, they're not.
You know what I mean? Like, so it's kind of like the same thing. But like, I think the bystander effect, it is a real thing. And high school is one of those things, because we used to have like a parking lot at West. I don't know if you know West at all, but
oh yes, I do. But go ahead.
We used to have a parking lot, and right now it's a Dunkin' Donuts.
Yep, I know what you're talking about.
But it used to be a dirt parking lot, and we used to call it the Pit.
Of course, it was called the Pit.
And when technically where that pit was not on school property,
and
so
do whatever you want.
If somebody who was a bully would basically bully you,
Like,
they
meet
would
me
go,
at the Pit.
we're going to fight at the Pit. Meet me there after school. And basically it would be just like a movie or a TV show, and you would have a basically a circle of freaking students
Hold on.
around you.
So my question is, did you go to the Pit?
I've never gotten into a fight.
No. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking even just watching somebody in the Pit.
No, but I've driven by it. Because I've never parked in the Pit. I parked near the school.
No, I know, but I was asking, the reason why is like, so you driven by it while somebody was fighting, let's say, another individual.
Yes.
Okay, so you at least seen what was going on.
Yes, I've seen what happened there. But yes, it basically was like a movie or a TV show where, you have this circle of kids.
Oh,
and
yeah, I know.
And they're fighting in the middle of it. But, I mean, that's the bystander effect, even though they went there to watch the fight. But nobody wants to intervene. They don't think it's none of their business. They're there to see the fight. But they're all like afraid of their own social status. They don't want to be part of the out crowd. They want to be part of the in crowd, and that's exactly what they're afraid of. That they don't want to be in the center of that circle.
Right. And what's funny to me is that, looking back at like high school, just real quick, is like, you look at it and you're like, I want to be the popular kid, or I want to be this or that. I want to be the most fashionable. I want to be this, right? And so you have these expectations, and then when you leave high school, you sit to yourself like, why the fuck did I ever think that this was the greatest idea? Like, I was like, I was a pretty smart kid, but never was like valedictorian. Like, I wasn't at that level, right? I was smart enough to make sure that yes, I'm gonna pass high school. I think I was like a 3.4, 3.5 maybe. Like I was never like.
Oh, I just barely passed high school. Like I was surprised I actually freaking passed high school. But
I was smart, but there was just certain things that like, I didn't care about. Like, when I had my friends and I hung out with them, I liked, that thing was like, I was just kind of like the kid that liked, like hip hop and like, like kind of like the first stuff, and so my friends, you've already met one of them, Jordan and stuff. And so, so we got along and we played video games. So I was just like that typical nerd and like a few other things. And, I just, to me, it was like, I could talk to people. I'd have no issues. I never really had any problems, but it was just like those like few nuances. Like if I talked to like certain individuals that were, part of the in crowd, that were, high up there, like I was never really, like it was never really a balancing act. It was just more like I knew where I was and I just didn't really give a shit whether I was popular or if I was.
Yeah, in high school, I never really cared where I was. I just did my thing and,
right, exactly.
I did whatever. But I mean,
And it was just one of those things where, people.
But I definitely saw, when I was in high school, I mean, I definitely was picked on. I definitely, I definitely saw my fair share of people getting picked on, and
Yep,
I
same
definitely did my fair share of bystanding.
And same here as well.
But I mean, there were some, some kids that I definitely did stick up for here or there. There was one kid, and I don't remember what his name was, but he had a skin condition. And I couldn't tell you what it was, but his his skin was always really flaky, like head to toe.
Yeah.
Like crazy flaky all the time.
Yeah.
And people were vicious to him.
And the problem was that I like, even just bringing it up, it just creeps me out too. I remember, I think it was my freshman year. Granted, I was at a different high school at the time, but this kid had a few different issues. One was this kid had, actually, a while back, I did see him again. I was like, oh boy. Anyways, he just like had horrible hygiene issues. It was just like, didn't really shower. He had a lot of acne. And the problem was like, he had the acne where, and I really hate it. I know there's a real thing for this, but like, the honeycomb effect, you know what I'm talking about? I cannot.
Yeah.
Anyways, like he had that kind of like honeycomb, like acne and certain things. And I was like, ugh, and I was just, and it was hard because I would try to stick up for him in certain ways. But then it was like, it was hard because I'm like, I don't.
I mean, me and a few of the friends that I had, like we stuck up for him like when we could, because we didn't see him like all day long in school. But like when we were, I had a few classes with him, and we would stick up for him when we could. But like when we got around to senior year, he died before that, and he died from that skin condition. So it wasn't like he was like, it was poor hygiene, or it was like it was something like the skin condition wasn't like an actual like disease or like something that he had. So it wasn't like something like, he just didn't shower. They lived in a cardboard box somewhere. Like it was an actual thing that he had, and he died before he was able to graduate. And obviously, I'm sure people probably just felt like pieces of shit after he died.
Absolutely.
But it was like, seeing how people were like just picking on him. It was like, this kid can't freaking help the way he looked. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he looks weird and it's gross, but like, can't help it. Like, come on.
No, I agree. I mean, when you start to judge people off the appearance and, things that they have no control over, like, there's certain things, yes, you have control over, and there's certain things that no, you're either born with or it is just what it is. But, when you start to look at that, I mean, or especially, and I hate saying the word, but, there's reasons, and I hate saying this, but there's reasons why people commit suicide because of again, even bystander effect, because it can be, because like, when you're just sitting there and you're letting it happen, and then so many, it could be years later, it could be a week later, it could be whatever. And then somebody does that. I mean, I know it's a tough subject, but it happens, and it's the worst thing that you could do, and that's where, I think people need to realize, like, when you are looking at this, think about how, if you're that individual, like their mental status, like how they feel about themselves, how they, now they don't want to interact with other people because now who do I trust? Who can help me out in times of need? Like, who are your real friends? Like, there's so much to think about in these situations that, I know some people are like, well, I don't want to get involved, but like, that's the kind of shit that you have to think about when you're watching this individual getting it done by them, or the bully doing it to them. Like, how would you, think about that for a second? Like, that's the kind of shit you really have to think about, like in the long-term effects, where people think, oh, well, no, I need to worry about right now and need to be worried about getting home at the end of the day. Well, they may not have at the end of the day. They might not have next week. They might not have whatever. So, and I'm only saying that because that is the truth, and that is the reality of a lot of bullying situations, because that's technically what could happen. And that's the worst thing that could happen. But anyways, I know we've kind of gone a little dark there, but the last thing, we talked about a little bit was really the AI.
Yeah, impact of technology. So, this kind of like, it's a kind of a three-pronged attack that can happen with AI. And AI is kind of a growing technology. it's still fairly new, but it's made bullying
Extremely easy.
extremely easy, and like anybody who's anybody can do it. And it goes to video, you can do images, you can do voice.
I mean, you could basically take over a person's life and their identity in a sense and just basically say whatever the hell you want to anybody. And nobody would, well, I mean, there's technology to find out if it's AI or not, but like,
Yeah,
it's so almost hyper realistic to the point where you don't even know what's real versus not.
Right.
And that's what we're saying.
yeah. I mean, video is still fairly new, but
Well, yes.
with deep fake technology now, like you can make a person like look and sound like anybody.
No,
So
but
you can really like ruin a person's life.
imagine 10 years from now, even though that video is still roughly new, and you're right. Imagine 10 years from now if they made it more advanced and more enhanced and everything else. Think about how hard it would be to try to figure out if that was real or fake. If they got that good. You know what I mean? Like if you really worked on that, I mean, that shit could be scary. That's how
Think
threatening this could be.
10 years ago,
Well, 10 years ago, yes, it's
you would have to
physically.
like CGI somebody
Well, that's true. Yes, you'd have to have
to
a
actually like make somebody look the way that they would, but like it would
True.
be almost like you're watching a video game, and it would like, I think this is fake. Like their mouth isn't really like moving
it's
quite
not
quite
like
real.
a human. Yeah.
But this is like literally them taking a photo of your face,
Mhm.
and it deep fakes it onto another video where it actually is mimicking exactly what is on that video. So whatever video that they're wanting to put you on, it's literally just superimposing you onto it.
Right.
And it makes it look like you're doing whatever they want on that video.
Right. And that's why Matt is I'm agreeing, is that yes, 10 years ago, 10 years from now, I mean, yes, like I said,
and it's
AI
only
has
gonna get
never-
better.
Well, I know. And,
Yeah.
and like with AI, like, AI has been a thing for a little bit now, but we've mentioned AI before in, video games, music, I mean, everything. There's so much that is talked about it, but like,
I mean, we use AI for planning our episodes, and I use it for some of the music stuff that we have,
I've used it for different ideas and
and
other things.
we use it as a tool, as a productive tool,
Right. Not a
but
offensive tool in this case.
but people are using AI for these nefarious things, and video, and it's the same thing for images. I mean, you're doing this like face swap kind of technology where they can take something online and make you look like anybody.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can take an image and you can post it anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So now they can take a photo of somebody naked online and now put your face on it,
Mhm.
and they can literally just post it everywhere. And depending on where it goes, good luck trying to get that thing off.
Again, and that's the problem with the internet, right? So once it's on, you'll never be able to get it off. And that's the scary part. Like, once it's there, I mean, unless you knew somebody that is in control of the internet and can do that for you, then guess what? An average Joe, you're not.
But it really depends. I mean, it really depends, because like if you have people like sharing it, and then they share it to people, and they're sharing it to people, and they're sharing it to people, it's like it's impossible to get rid of, and it'll be there for literally forever.
Yeah, and that's the sad part, and that's why like we've said, like technology has become so advanced and so just astronomically insane when it comes to how good it is, and how basically not saying life threatening, but how threatening a lot of this can be to people and other places. So, I know for a fact, like we were talking about too a while back about the writer strike, and now, the actors, were striking as well. But like, yeah, having a video of yourself be like in a movie, all they have to do is do certain things, and then that's the same idea.
This is why the writers and the actors were striking, because this is one of the biggest things, because they did not want, writers did not want the studios using AI to write the scripts for them.
I mean, no offense, there have been some occasions where I think they should have.
Oh, they probably still should, but it's also actors not using their likenesses to
enhance something
to put them in movies, and this goes for voice. And I think voice is like one of the more damaging. Not that images and videos are not, but like voice can be really, really damaging, especially like. If I can take a voice sample of like John or anybody and I can put it through an AI, and then I can literally type whatever I want, and then I can send it to whomever I want to.
Well, and even let's just say if you can find a way to make it an effect, right? So I'm not saying you would, but if you did and say you wanted to sound like me on the microphone and put it on our like mixing board, literally, you could sound just like me, and I could do the same thing with you. But I mean, I know it's a small example, but like it's the same idea where you could literally either do that or even have a voice.
But it's like through Messenger, like I could do a voice memo and send a voice memo to anybody that I would want to.
Yep.
And I could say the most offensive thing. I could make verbal threats.
Yep.
I could do whatever I want through a voice memo that sounds 100% like you.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden now you will be getting messages going, what the fuck is wrong with you? And now you're like, what? I didn't do nothing.
Like, what the fuck, man?
And I'm sitting at home in my underwear playing my PlayStation.
I mean, well,
you know what I mean?
PS4, but not
like,
yeah, go ahead.
And I can just be like, I didn't do nothing. Like,
yeah, you can play innocent.
Like nothing ever happened.
Yep. No, I mean, and it's, like I said, it's scary. It's. I would say it's probably even more scarier than just going up to a person.
And I just want to throw it out there that I don't play my PlayStation in my underwear. Just
no, actually, no. Well, lately he hasn't been playing his PlayStation because, like I've said, we need to start a GoFundMe account for him for his PS5 account. Okay. Anyways, no, and so to kind of wrap things up here,
very, very damaging though. Like AI. I mean, if you're using AI in this manner, like you need to stop it. Just to stop.
Well, and just realize that, with AI and stuff, it's like we said, it can be a great tool. It can be, very innovative.
If you're using it to like swap yourself into a Pedro Pascal, go for it. Like, go for it. Face swap yourself into a movie, face swap yourself into a TV show.
Yeah.
Make yourself feel like, make yourself Captain America. Go for it. Like make yourself something like innocent like that. Like,
yeah, and it's
but
not
if you're
hurting somebody,
if you're not hurting anybody and you're face swapping or doing deep fakes of yourself as Captain America or the Hulk, you know what? Go for it. But if you're using like video or images or voice to hurt somebody else, you just need to stop.
Well, again, just
one that's illegal anyways, but.
Well, then,
you could
bystander effect should be illegal too, but here we are. But that's just a sore subject. But I'm just saying.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're posting it or sending it to people, I mean, you could get in serious trouble if you're caught. I'm just saying, like
that is true.
If you're caught doing that, like you can still get in serious trouble.
I think to kind of wrap things up with bullying is, we talked about the impact of technology, the gatekeeping, the cancel culture, the bystander effect. I mean, these are things that, yes, they're still true to this day. They're not going to, unfortunately, ever go away. I know that for a fact. And, it's just sad when, we have to keep talking about it. Because actually, and it's going to sound kind of weird really quick, but like, because I know I watched a little bit of the Super Bowl. I wasn't going to mention anything about football yet, but I remember seeing a commercial with Snoop Dogg and Tom Brady. And it was about hate. Right?
Yes.
It's like, I love how we have to have a commercial talking about hate, or like, they didn't really like, I love how we're doing this commercial about this. It's the same idea. Like we're talking about with the bullying thing here, like the fact that we have to keep talking about it. Like, we're keeping to talk about hate and we're keeping to talk about these things, and of course I know it's not going away, but it's sad when we have to keep talking, reminding people, keep doing the same message, keep repetitive, I get it, but God damn it, how long is this going to keep going? How long do we have to keep this shit up for? Because, like, at the end of the day, there's got to be some freaking points that you can be like, hey, the fuck can we do to get this on the right path to where we need to be? And that's where it sucks because no one knows that question or nobody. I even said as a joke, and this is where I've told him this, is that the only 3 events that could literally change the humanity of the planet and all the wars and racism and all this shit, or at least I know 2 of them. I can't remember the third one off the top of my head, but at least the 2 of them. The events that would need to happen are an alien invasion or a zombie apocalypse or something that is on a global scale that is affecting everyone, and it's a common denominator of how we can unite as a people, right? Unite all geeks, as we always like to say, right? So that's where I'm saying, like, it has to be a global phenomenon to have some kind of impact on a major scale like that in order to literally stop talking about this shit. Because it's just sad. And it's just...
I think though, even on that level, I think you're still going to see some level of bullying. Because
yes, you're still going to... You're correct. I know.
It's not something that's ever really going to go.
And unfortunately,
maybe in the zombie apocalypse you won't see AI, but
no. But like I would say, what sucks is like when I only say this real quick, like the what is it, Miss World, like the beauty pageants and stuff. Like what do you want? I want world peace. I'm sorry to say it like that, but when you say it like that, no offense. Unfortunately, unless things are like gonna change dramatically like that, you're never gonna have world peace. There's no way. There's always gonna be conflict. There's always gonna be something that people are gonna want to fight about because that's just human nature of some sort.
Yeah,
and it sucks, but it's.
That's the whole purpose of Evolve is like we're just trying to get better one step at a time, and
we're guilty.
Evolve, adapt, overcome. And we're just trying to get better.
Well, and again, we're just as guilty. We've never said that we haven't been a bystander. We've never done the gatekeeping, or we've never done certain things. We just try to remind ourselves of we're not as any better as anyone else is. And like he said, evolve, adapt, overcome, being able to recognize it and to work on it. We're not perfect. Again, that nobody in the history of the universe or of anybody should be considered perfect because it's life. That's the beauty of this whole thing that we live in.
It's just, the whole idea of evolve, like you're not going to all of a sudden change overnight.
Oh, hell no.
And that's the idea of evolve is that, by making small changes and adapting over time, like you will overcome whatever obstacles and challenge that you're facing. And that's the whole purpose.
Yep. And that's why at some point we'll just make a damn charity or not a charity, but a nonprofit or something. And that's where we want to go with that, and keep it going.
Yeah.
But anyways, boys and girls and everybody else in between, we appreciate you being on here, listening to us, talking about a serious issue, as we used to call it, the serious issues or the, serious episodes, but we, again, just keep in mind that, if you see this stuff happening, do something about it. Don't just sit there. Because I can't tell you how many times people do this. I understand it's scary. It's not easy. It's not anything, but if you do it and you follow through, who knows what the outcome could be. And you know what? Maybe you'll make that person's day by doing it. But anyways, until our next episode, we shall enjoy the fact that we're ending this and have a good night.